we're going to work on using Photoshop in a real simple way to create an animation. So at this point you should have already sort of photographed your frames. So you should have photographed at least 12 sort of movements. So you can do that using a light table, set it up on the copy stand, and then photograph them very carefully so that the camera is not moving around. So that should give you your 12 steps that you're going to do in your animation. You could do 12 to 24. I'm just going to show you 12 just to keep it simple. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to open up Photoshop. And usually when Photoshop opens up, we have all the things we're used to here, like our menus up here at the top, and then our toolbar, and then the palettes. But we want to add a sort of a special thing that's not always there all the time. So you want to add the timeline. So you go up here to Window, and then just go down to Timeline. So Window, Timeline, click on that, and that'll bring up this timeline option. And sometimes it's, shrunk down like that, but you can expand it a little bit if you want to. And what the timeline does is that it allows us to edit video. So this is kind of cool. If you don't have a video editing program around, you can really simply edit video, moving images, stuff like that. All of those, like, animated GIFs that you see online that are, like really cute and all that sort of stuff. Most of those are done in some simple program like Photoshop instead of like a big high-end video editing system. So what we want to do is we want to just bring in our files, but we want to bring in all 12 of those files and stages in a stack. So what we want to do is instead of opening up and creating a new file like we would if we were going to work on a flat image, we want to go all the way down here to Scripts. And if you go to Scripts, you'll see there's all these options that are kind of advanced. And if you go, there's one here that's called Load Files into Stack. So we want to select Scripts, Load Files into Stack, and then we just need to find the files that we're going to add in here. So you click on Browse, and you just go to your spot where you've saved your stuff. So I put mine on my desktop in a specific folder, and it's really important that you number these 1 through 24, 1 through 36, however many you have, because you want to make sure that you are thoughtful about how you number them, because it's going to bring them in numerical order. So if your numbers are all over the place, it's just not going to make sense. So you want to go in and rename all of these step 1 through 12. But if you just click on the first one and then shift and click on the last one, it'll highlight all of them, and just click Open. And then there's these other options that you can go with, like attempt to automatically align source images and things like that. We're going to leave those unchecked and just click OK. And what will happen is Photoshop will just slowly process all of these frames, and it's going to bring those in like a big stack. So it's going to bring them in as a whole bunch of layers all stacked on top of each other. So this is a great thing if you have a lot of images you're going to kind of composite together. You can do this and kind of automate it that way also. But the main thing to know is that once it's done, you're going to see up here in the Layers palette, you're going to see all your layers from 1 to 12. And you're also going to see all of those here, down here in the timeline. So if I just push play, which is the play button is right here, you'll see that it just goes along and it's going to just move. But there's nothing to see because all these layers are on top of each other. So what the next thing we want to do is we want to check our frames per second. So you want to click over here, and you want to go in and go to Set Timeline Frame Rate. So right here. So anything you're going to adjust in the timeline happens in this crazy little menu bar down here that looks like 3 lines with a down-facing triangle. And you just go to Set Timeline Frame Rate. And we want to make sure that our frame rate is set to 12. Like sometimes it's set to 29, which is a classic video frame rate. We want to make sure we set it to 12. 12 frames a second is a little bit clunky, but it means a lot less drawing. So we're going to have basically a full second of animation here from our 12 frames. And so you just click OK on that. Make sure your frame rate is set correctly. And then all you have to do is we need to kind of make these somehow kind of staggered so that they are one at a time. So one shows, and the next one shows, and the next one shows. So you could do that manually just by kind of like shifting these around, but that takes a long time. So what you want to do is you want to go in and you want to go back to our little menu there, and we want to say Convert Frames, and we want to say Make Frames from Clips. So each of our layers that we've added into Photoshop here are now are technically clips now. We want to make them frames, so we're just going to click that. And when you do that, you'll see it sort of nicely staggers our animation here, right? So it gives us this this nice little kind of one at a time, turns one on, turns the other one off, turns one on, turns the other one off. So it gives us that kind of motion. But the way that it's set up now, you've got number 12 down here at the bottom and number 1 up here at the top, and we want to reverse that. So again, if you zoom in, this little slider thing here lets you zoom in or out on the timeline. It's a good skill. We're going to use that a lot through the rest of this course. You want to just zoom in enough so you can kind of grab this and see it. And they're only a frame each. They're only like a, 12 of these equal 1 second, so they're a 12th of a second. So we're just going to pull frame 1 back to here. And then we're going to pull frame 2 back to here so it kind of snaps up next to it. Going to pull frame 3 here. Oops. Put frame 4 there. And we're just going to keep the stack going. Oops, you can ignore that whenever it happens. Just going to keep dragging these out until they all line up in a nice line from 1 to 12, which is exactly what we want, right? So now, if I push play on this, you'll see it gives me one full cycle of flapping the wings, right? This little thing right here is this tells you how long or short the duration of your video is. So right now we have this set to frames, so this is only giving me 12 frames per second, right? So that's good. But if for some reason you see this little doodad there that's way over here, you just want to pull it right up next to the end, right up to the very end of your frames. So now if we push play on this, it's just going to basically move over and over again. So that's exactly what we want. It'll make it look like the bird's wings are flapping, like it's just a flying bird in single place. So we're all set there. So what we want to do now is we want to export the file. We want to export it. So to do that, you can click right here and just go to Render Video. There's also a button up here that is under Edit, and you can go, I'm sorry, where's that at? It is under, let's see, it's under Export, I'm sorry, and you can go Render Video. So it's kind of two places. So Export is also a good place to look, but we'll just go here and we'll go to Render Video. And it's going to ask us what we want to do, like what kind of render do we want to make with this thing. And so you guys can choose the formats however you want. I'm just going to go with an H.264 format. It's a nice, simple one. We want really high quality. Kind of keep it the same size as your documents, whatever you scanned them in at. Document frame rate, we want to make sure we keep that at 12. And we want the work area, it'll automatically set that so it'll get all of those things. So if we click Render now, it's just going to take a second. Let's see, I'm just going to name this something else. Alright, and then click Render. Okay, so it's done. So if I go to my desktop now, and I just go to the desktop, I will see bird flying one. I can open that up. And then if I push play, you'll see it's this nice little, quick little animation that just happened. So it's a nice little way to get just to get a fast animation done and export it out. And what we'll do next is we'll take this short little MP4 video file and we'll use it in After Effects and we'll move it around the screen. So the idea is you're going to make a looping thing, a thing that loops from the beginning back to the end again, and then we'll use it in our After Effects project next.